At this moment, without any delay at all, I would like us to welcome Professor Fredrick Ato Armah. He has been waiting patiently. He actually joined. I informed you earlier that he has some technology issues, but he actually joined just about the time Lenny also started presenting. So he had waited patiently for us. We'll allow him to actually come on board and give us a presentation on theme 2, that is research assessment and bibliometrics. Welcome, Prof.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to a very interesting time during this session. So I'll be talking about bibliometrics, and then thereafter we'll be inviting questions because we want the session to be as interactive as possible. And for the first part of the presentation, I want to look at the 4 steps when it comes to undertaking bibliometric analysis. And this will just be the framework. And then I would expand on that briefly. And then we'll use a practical example to illustrate some of the things that I've indicated regarding the bibliometric analysis. So typically, there are 4 steps when it comes to undertaking a bibliometric analysis. You need to characterize what you are interested in by defining the aims and scope of the analysis. So are you interested in doing a bibliometric analysis of an institution, of an individual, of a research group, or of some collaborators? You have to really define the nature and scope of the bibliometric analysis you want to undertake. And then, of course, the definition of the analysis that you want to undertake must be broad enough to warrant the need to undertake it. So if you want to, for instance, do a bibliometric analysis of an individual over the past 6 months, you are likely not to see much information, or you're not likely to get any information. If you were to expand the scope over, let's say, a 10-year duration or a 5-year duration, you are more likely to get much more information than if you were to limit it to a week or a month. So you have to broaden the scope. And then, of course, you may also be interested in the fact that you're looking at the entire gamut of research that individual may have done or that institution may have done, instead of just disaggregating it. Otherwise, you will not get much information. So the definition should be broad-based. And that will be the first step. Then you transition to the second step, where you then select the techniques. There are a plethora of techniques that are available when it comes to bibliometric analysis. And you must know the one which is most suited for your intended study. So you have to choose the most appropriate technique. If you are interested in visualizing, then there are several techniques that help you to visualize, as a hierarchical cluster analysis, either as something that relates to a dendrogram. There are different ways of visualizing or presenting the bibliometric analysis in a visual form. If you are more interested in the more traditional approach, where you are looking at quantifying the numbers, it could be number of papers and number of joint papers, number of single-authored papers, number of research collaborators involved in the paper, number of citations per year, number of citations over a 5-year duration. You have to really be specific. And then that will determine the kind of technique which will be most suited for the analysis you want to undertake. Then you move to the next step, where you collect the actual data for the bibliometric analysis. So you have to use some search terms. You have to use some search terms. So you have to sit down and then decide which search terms you want to use. It could be search terms like agriculture, environment, health, malaria. You have several search terms that you want to use. And the search terms that you use will determine the kind of information that will be elicited or you pull out from the database that you are using for your search. You select the database and you use the database based on whether it has the information you want, whether it has the coverage. Some databases are fairly recent, others have been there for much longer. So if you want to use a database which goes back in time, let's say in the 1990s, then you have to know which of the databases has the information you want. Otherwise, you will not be able to elicit the information that you want from there. So you have to know the coverage that the database has, whether it is adequate for your purpose or not. Then, of course, you then go ahead to really get the bibliometric data based on the choices that you have made in step 2. And then you clean the data before you proceed. You eliminate duplicate records and erroneous entries. You eliminate it from that. And that will make sure that you have almost sacrosanct information to proceed to the next step. Then the final step, or the fourth step, is the actual bibliometric analysis and the reporting of the findings. And here there are 2 streams. You have the performance analysis, where you summarize the work of the various research groups, whether they are authors, whether they are institutions, whether they are countries, and by journals. And then, of course, you also use their publications, their citations, and publication citation measures. You use all of that, the GA index, the I index, the I-10 index, H index. You use all of those ones to assess their performance. And then you'll be able to write the report and to characterize and quantify the research that they have done over a specific period of time. It's always over a specific period of time. It could be a decade, it could be 5 years, it could be more than that. Then you also can also undertake what is called the mapping, the science mapping. So here you are looking at the structures, the linkages among the groups. So if you look at, for instance, UHAS, which universities constitute their top 3 collaborators, which universities constitute their top 3 funders. So you do network analysis, clustering analysis, and visualizations, all under the science mapping. And then, of course, the information that you get, you then curate and summarize it, and then you present the findings. And then, of course, a key element of that analysis will be to indicate the implications of what you have found. If, for instance, you found that UHAS partnership is broadly in the global north, then the implication will be that UHAS needs to foster much more deeper collaboration with universities in Ghana and the sub-region. So they should foster many more South-South research collaborations instead of focusing almost exclusively on the global north. That will be the implications of the findings if you find that indeed the research constellations you have is pretty much north-south and lopsided in that sense. So this is just an overview of undertaking the bibliometric analysis. I'm going on to the next one. Then after, I think we can invite questions. Yes, so in the previous slide, I spoke about the 4 major steps that you use in undertaking a bibliometric study. First of all, you have to identify the unit of analysis, whether it is an individual you are assessing, whether it is an institution you are assessing, whether it is a research group you are assessing, whether it is a funding collaboration that you are assessing. You have to know which unit analysis you are actually interested in, and that will determine the kind of assessment that will be most appropriate for what you want to do. Now, when it comes to the analysis, there are main techniques. So I already mentioned the performance analysis and then the science mapping. So if you look at the main techniques, they are disaggregated into 2, the performance analysis and the science mapping. So if you look at, for instance, the performance analysis, you are looking at, let's say, the total number of publications by a faculty member, the total number of publications by a department, total number of publications by an institute, total number of publications by a university, or number of authors that are contributing to a set of papers that you have identified, which ones are authored by an individual alone, and which ones are authored jointly with others. The number of active years of publication. You want to know whether this person has been actively publishing for the past 5 years or actively publishing for the past 20 years, because they are not the same. And then you also be interested in knowing how prolific the person is. So you look at the productivity of that researcher over a specific period of time. That is the productivity active year of publication. And then, of course, we talk about the total citations and average citations, which relates to the citation-related metrics. And then you want to look at the collaboration index. Is this university collaborative enough, or it is inward looking? Is this university linking with other universities on the same issues to look at issues of regional and global significance? Those are issues that are important. And then the traditional metrics, the H index, the G index, the I-10 index, and the rest, they are all part of the performance analysis. Then, of course, within the science mapping, you look at networks, relationships among publications. You want to look at the most influential publications for the group or for the university, which ones are yielding the highest field-weighted citation impact above the global average. You want to know that. You want to know the bibliographic coupling, which authors write the most together, which departments collaborate the most together. And then you can also do some mapping based on some potential relationships that are likely to ensue based on the current trends. They are all things that can happen under the science mapping. You can also do social interactions or relationship among authors. And in that particular context, you can do a dendrogram, which then talks about whether those people were trained by the same supervisor elsewhere, and for which reason they are now collaborating or something to that effect. Then we also have the third category, which is the enrichment techniques. There you are looking at relationships, feedbacks that you have among the groups. So you look at degree of centrality, betweenness centrality, adjunct vector centrality, closeness centrality, page rank. They are all interesting metrics under network analysis. And then, of course, when it comes to the clustering, you talk about exploratory factor analysis, hierarchical cluster analysis, and many more algorithms that are there to elicit that information. And then you can visualize. There are several tools that have been developed to aid in visualizing this output. Sometimes the numbers may be so many and quite overwhelming, but the visualization makes the thing very picturesque and gives you a sense of what is happening. There are several tools that have been developed. BibSL is one, Gephi is one, Viewer is one, Bibliometrics RS. There are several of them, and all of these have a role to play when it comes to doing the network analysis. So I'll move on to demonstrate to you in real life what I've just talked about. Yes, so you are now seeing the University of Cape Coast Bibliometric Database. The University of Cape Coast Bibliometric Database. This is the dashboard. Now, so you can see here, we talk about the university performance, and that gives the performance of the university in terms of our research or scholarly output in general. Now, it tells us that so far, what we have in the system, we have about 11,498 publications. And then we have 719 people contributing these publications. And out of that, this 11,498 publications have elicited citations numbering about 153,727. It doesn't mean that all the papers have been cited. Some may be cited, some are not cited. Then here it breaks down the publications by various units in the university. So it tells us the proportion of the publications, that is the 11,498 publications that belong to the College of Agriculture and Natural Science. It tells us the proportion that has been contributed by the College of Education Studies, and then the proportion that has been contributed by the College of Humanities and Legal Studies. So you will realize that the dominant forces when it comes to the breakdown of publication actually belongs to the College of Humanities and Legal Studies, and then the College of Agriculture and Natural Science. And then the College of Health and Allied Sciences is in third, as we can see here. So it gives indication of the contribution of the publications that we have across colleges. And then this is the citation breakdown. The one that I just spoke to is the number of publications, and this one is the number of citations. So you realize that a disproportionate share of the citations has been contributed by the College of Humanities and Legal Studies, followed almost evenly by the College of Agriculture and Natural Science, and the College of Health and Allied Sciences, as we can see over there. Now, it is also instructive to note that this dashboard helps us to assess our performance over a 3-year window. So you can see our performance this year, our performance last year, and our performance 2 years ago. So that is what we find here: 2 years ago, last year, and this year. So you can see, for instance, that our performance last year in terms of citation is better than our performance 2 years ago. But this year has not ended, so we don't know whether it will catch up with our performance last year. But it seems a tall order. It is likely that our performance last year will be better than our performance this year in terms of citations. We see a similar trend when it comes to the number of publications too. We had more papers last year than 2 years ago, and we have more papers so far than more papers last year than this year. But of course, the gap is closing. So it's likely that by the end of the year, this year, the number of publications will outstrip what we have for last year. Then the next stage, you can see some specific metrics for individuals. So this are bibliometrics for individuals. It shows within the university the one who has the most publications and the total number of publications that person has, the department to which the person belongs, the total number of citations, the person's H index, and the person's I-10 index. This simply means that 30 of the person's citation papers have been cited at least 30 times. And this I-10, which is 75, means that 75 of the person's citations has been cited at least 10 times. Then when we come to this level, it gives us indication the person who has the most citations in the university and the department to which that individual belongs. That person has 102 publications. 38 of the person's publications have been cited 38 times, and 62 of his publications have been cited at least 10 times. We see a similar 10 here, a similar 10. So this gives indication of the bibliometrics at the individual level. Then, as you go down, we have a graph, and here they are superimposed. We have a graph of citation and then the graph of publication superimposed. If we were to uncheck the citations, you realize that we only have for the publications. The information that we have here shows that from 2000 to 2010, we didn't do much when it comes to publications. We didn't do much when it comes to publications. Our publications started soaring from 2010 onwards. Now, we can also look at the citations and then see what happens. Now, if you look at citations, it's around 2017 thereabout that we saw the citation begin to rise as much as would have wished or wanted. And then it peaked in 2020. We are now in 2022, so perhaps we'll see what happens there. But this is very important. The information that we get from this bibliometric analysis are twofold. The first is that it helps university management at different levels, whether it is an HOD, a dean, or a provost, or even the vice chancellor, to make management decisions concerning the research output of faculty members. And then it also is a diagnostic tool. It helps us to know areas where we are not faring well, and areas that require attention. It's very, very important. Now, this is just the dashboard. Now, you can also do the bibliometric analysis by authors. By authors. So when you do this, you see that the author list, and it gives us indication the most cited individual, and as you move down the ladder. So the most cited individual has 23,281 citations, and on and on and on. You can see that. It shows the person's rank, it shows the person's I-10 index, the H index, the total number of publications the person has, and then it shows the first year the person published and the last year the person published. This shows that this individual started publishing in 2006 and has been publishing since then. So that information is also there. Now, you can move beyond that and search by specific publications. When you do that, it shows us that this paper is the most cited, and that paper was published in 2016 in the Lancet, and it has accrued 5,407 citations. So this gives us indication what is happening. You can also search by colleges. You can search by colleges. When I click, for instance, the College of Humanities and Legal Studies, you can see their metrics appear. The person who is most cited in that college, the information appears, how they have been faring in terms of their citations and publications in the past 3 years is also evident from there. If we select College of Education Studies, information also appears. It gives us indication of who the top 10 scholars in that college are. We see all of that information evident there. So it is very, very useful when it comes to decision making and where we are headed as a university. You can even search for faculties. Let's say faculty of, let's say School of Business. If you click on the School of Business, it gives us indication the scholars who are most cited. It gives us the top 10 people who have published in that School of Business. It gives us the top 10 people who are cited in that School of Business. So that is there. We see that information there. It's evident from there. And then you can also click on the School of Medical Sciences. It gives us indication of the total number of papers that have been published from there, the total number of faculty members who have contributed to these citations. And this information is very useful because you can go into the system and look at departments that are dormant and are not producing any scholarly research in the past 5 years. And then you can ascertain what the problem is and seek to address it. So there are several benefits when it comes to bibliometric analysis. And this we see. You can also drill down to specific departments. If we were to go to, let's say, Department of Conservation Biology and Entomology, it tells us that there are 8 people in that department, and cumulatively, they have 129 publications. So it means that this analysis can be done at different administrative levels, at the institutional level, at the college level, at the faculty or school level, at the departmental level. So at different levels, you can diagnose what the issue is and bring a solution that is most responsive to the needs of those in that particular group. Now, it is obvious from what we have just shown that multi-indicator bibliometric analysis is better than a unidimensional approach. That means that you cannot just use, let's say, total number of publications, because it will not be a true reflection of what is required. So if you use total number of publications, you should use total citations, you should use citations in the last 5 years, you should use I-10 index, you should use H index, you should use G index, you should use several indices. And the goal is to give a comprehensive account so that you will not be given a lopsided account of what is happening. You want to make sure that what you have given is much more comprehensive. So this, in a nutshell, is some of the benefits that can accrue to us when we use bibliometrics. I think now I'll just rest my case and then open the floor for questions and comments and discussions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thank you, Prof, very much for this very insightful presentation. In fact, I should confess that you have wooed me in terms of research interest to actually take bibliometrics as a very serious area. While we are waiting for colleagues to bring in their questions, I have 1 or 2 that I want to put across first.
Yes.
Yes, my first question is, this dashboard I can see from the URL is Scholar UCC.
Yes.
Is it built on open tools or is it from proprietary vendors?
Oh, this is a very fantastic question. The backbone, there are 2 things that go into the backbone. We have the Excel record from our Director of Finance, and then we also use Google Scholar as the second backbone. So we use Google Scholar and then information from our Department of Finance as the backbone for this. So it's built on that.
Whoa, that's great. So that means each of these authors we are looking at must have a Google Scholar profile.
Yes, for UCC it is mandatory.
Great, Great. I'm very much interested, because I was thinking maybe was this built on your institutional repository? But looking at the data, I have realized that there must be some external source. That's why I was asking that question.
Yes, so Google Scholar is the external source, and then the internal source is our information from the, because everybody has to be paid, right?
Yes.
So because everybody has to be paid, that record is the most accurate. And therefore you get it from there, and then management information systems will couple it with the information. So what we do is that from time to time, we have to update the record. The number of people who are coming to join the universities, those that are leaving, we need to update the record. Those who are promoted, we also need to update the record so that it reflects when we get there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great. So my follow-up and last question on that, is this open access, or do I need login credentials to be able to access this?
No, platform? you can search the link and get it. It's open access. Everybody can search it and even analyze the data.
Very great.
Yes, so you don't need to log in. It's open access. It's on the web, and the link is what I've just shown.
Yeah,
you can see it here. Maybe I can share the link in the pane so that you see it.
Yeah.
Let me share the link in the chat pane.
Yes, sure. All right, colleagues. Let's keep our questions coming. I have seen one. I think this is coming from Dominic. Dominic is asking, oh, okay, great. Deborah says, I just opened it. That is great. It's great to access that. Yeah, thanks, Prof, for the link. Let me put it across to everyone. Okay, so this is the link Prof has just shown us with those live demos of the dashboard for UCC scholarly output. I need to go back to one thing I've been trying to point at, that I know that there's a diversity of backgrounds and focus in terms of work performance and interest in this very group. We have so many people who are coming from civil society organizations that are focused either in agric or health and so many other things that they are doing. We have research fellows from institutes of research. We have lecturers from various schools. We have librarians. In fact, it's a whole mix of backgrounds and professional orientation. But one thing that I want us to observe is the fact that this platform is for collaboration, and therefore we should be able to identify collaborators from all these areas, all right? Because each one of these groups that I've just mentioned works with tons and tons of data. There are those who are focused on publishing. There are those who are focused on development initiatives at the community level. There are those who are focused on teaching and producing the next crop of professionals. All of us can begin to map our networks and see how we can work together with our expertise to produce the valuable knowledge base that the country needs to develop. Now, Prof, there's a question here for you, I think from Dominic, but I think you have answered that in your summary or the conclusion. He was asking, please, is a quantitative approach to research assessment, that's bibliometrics, enough to judge the quality of a paper?
Yeah, it is not enough. It is not enough. That's why you have to use different approaches at the same time. So you use, I recommend the multi-metric approach simultaneously. So instead of just using the quantitative approach, you can also characterize the quality of the paper by reading the paper and all of that. There are several qualitative dimensions of judging the quality of the paper. So the quantitative and the qualitative, they go hand in hand. And I believe that is the way we have to look at it. Now, the bibliometrics will normally not talk about the quality of the paper itself, but there's a relationship between the quality of the paper and where the paper ends up in. Because during the peer review process, it is expected that there will be some rigorous mechanism to weed out papers that are below par and ensure that those that get into the publication cycle and are published are the ones that meet some minimum requirements pertaining to quality. But it is not always.
We had challenges with our lighting system here.
Okay.
So sorry, I also went off. Internet and the light went off. But thanks. I head up to a good point. But I think, as you answered, the point is that there should be a multi-indicator approach.
Exactly.
To the assessment process.
Yeah.
And Prof,
I don't know whether you use connected papers. Do you use connected papers?
No, please. Okay,
so let me share connected papers. So it's also a tool for Bibliometrics to see papers that are published. You type in the title of the paper and it can give you papers that are published in that same area across the globe.
Wow.
By different authors. So I've just shared the connected papers link. So once you click on the connected papers, you type in the name or keyword of any paper, and then it gives you, perhaps maybe I need to demonstrate for you to see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so please, do you see my screen, the connected paper screen?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so we can say, I typed in malaria and then this is what appeared. So in this bibliometric tool, you can see that the first paper I typed, which was the Sherman, which was on malaria, afterwards, the number of papers that have been published, and then you can see the groups. When you put the thing on it, you realize that the information on the right begins to change. For instance, the PSI, stains, saliba, you can see the information changing. Yeah. And then you see linkages between the papers. You can see some networks.
Yeah.
As you put on it, it just keeps on changing. So you can know papers. So prior papers to the paper I typed in and derivatives of that paper. Papers that drew on that information. So prior papers, you can click on it, you see it, and derivatives of that, you can see it. So you can do for any group and then see the connections using bibliometrics or network analysis, as I said. And this is also a very open, a useful open source to look at what is being done in a particular area. And it's good for librarians to do those kind of analysis to see what information we can garner for management decision-making across the research and innovation ecosystem.
Yeah. Wow, this is great. It's great insight. And please, is there any special meaning to the size of the balloons?
Yes, fantastic. So when you see a big balloon, definitely it means that the citations are huge.
Okay.
So look at this one. It says it has been cited 6,839 times. And then when you click on this one, 195 times.
Good.
When you click on this, 1,199. 4,018. So the size of the balloon is indicative of the total number of citations. How many people or how many times people have used that work?
Yeah.
This one is 546. This one is 96. Let's see a very small bubble and see if we have this one. This is just 4 citations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And the clustering. What does a clustering mean? Does it mean they are more related?
Yes, they are more related.
Okay.
It means that the content relates more than the other papers that were published in that domain.
Okay.
It means that the ones that we see overlaps, it means that they are talking about virtually the same thing. Yeah. The extent of overlaps gives an idea about the information that overlaps among the papers.
Yeah.
The subject matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Prof, this is a great insight, because I know one of the very many complaints we receive from a lot of our students who are starting off with their research project is, I can't find papers. I can't find papers.
Oh, but this one is a very useful. It's a very useful tool, especially in the health sciences.
Exactly. So it's easy to find related papers.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you have also used OK maps before, open knowledge maps.
No, I've not used OK Maps before.
Okay, Open Knowledge Maps. It works in a very similar fashion, also using bubbles like this. So maybe you can try it later. I'll see if I can also put the link to that in the chat. I think there are some other questions. Dominic is asking about if you have ever come across the phenomenon of Sleeping Beauty publications at UCC, and if yes, how prevalent that situation is in your university.
What Sleeping Beauty?
Yes.
No, perhaps I need further explanation, because sometimes there are jargons, and the way I understand it may not be the way he understands it. So if he explains further, then that I can know that, okay, what I'm thinking is what he's thinking.
Exactly, Dominic.
Okay, so Prof, I'm referring to publications that take a long time to get citation.
Okay,
and
so
when they do,
we are on the same page. We are on the same page. Okay, yes, you know, people have spoken about, let's say, Ebola and even COVID and some other papers that were published way back that never had any citations. And then suddenly you have a particular disease outbreak, and then people begin to take interest in it. Yes, they are there, but they are also rare. You see, only few papers fall in that category. That is for a fact. That is for a fact. So in UCC, for instance, I don't really recall whether we have had that phenomenon where a paper was not cited, and then 30 or 40 years thereafter, because something has emerged, they come into the limelight and everybody is referring to it. It hasn't come to my attention yet, but it's possible that that paper is there. 30, 40 years from now, maybe that will happen. But as I said, you only have a few papers in that cohort, papers that are not cited because what work has been done has still not caught up with society, and for which reason nobody is citing it.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Prof. Our lighting situation here at UHAS main campus is dangling. So I'm sure, yes, a number of colleagues will be going off and on. But colleagues, please keep your questions coming in. There's another question here, Prof. It says, does your unit, and well, colleagues, I think I introduced that before Prof joined. Prof is the director for DRAKE, that is the Directorate for, I think, Research, Innovation, and Consultancy, if I'm not wrong.
That's correct.
Yes, at UCC. Okay. So someone is asking, does your unit offer training on bibliometrics?
Yes, we do, but usually to our university librarians.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So the outsiders are not included.
Yes. So we've given training to other affiliate colleges and universities, but on the university campus itself, we've not done that. And it's something that we have actually put on our action plan for the year, that we want to do it. The Ghana Science Association requested that we do some training for them. So we did the training on bibliometrics for them. But the broader university community, we have not done that.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So it means it can be requested by any group?
Yes, yes.
Exactly. All right. All right, thank you. Yeah, colleagues, we have actually gone beyond the hour. And so if there are any more questions, let's have them. Or, okay. There's one, thank you, Prof. Please, what method do you use at UCC to encourage departments that are not performing to publish? Any university policy for promoting publications, example, funding, training, etc.? What's the secret?
Okay, thank you very much. So at the University of Cape Coast, we have what is called addendum to research support grants. So every year, every other year, all colleagues are entitled to travel for a conference, which will be fully paid by the university every 2 years. So if you exhaust your quota this year, you have to wait for another 2 years because the demands are high. Now, beyond this, we have an incentive scheme which helps colleagues to work together and to publish. One of the schemes relate to giving $2,500 to groups that are working, or individuals. So every individual can get $2,500 if you're able to publish a certain number of papers in a particular outlet or a particular database. Normally, we talk about the Scopus Index databases. If you are able to do that every year, you get $2,500. And you can use that money for travel, for your research work, for that every year. So that is what we do to incentivize colleagues. It's not enough, but I believe it's a good start. And because of that, others have seen the need to also become prolific in the way they do research, so that they get the opportunities to have what we have. And then when we are going for promotion, there's a way that we calculate your contribution and make sure that if your scholarly work is out there and you are prolific, it accrues to your benefit. So there are several things that we are doing. We also organize a lot of training workshops and introduce colleagues to partners outside to broaden their networks. So there are several things that we do in tandem to ensure that basically colleagues are incentivized to research and to work. But there's still more to do.
Yes, great. I think UHAS is doing a lot of work. That is great to hear. And Patrick, I hope you have got the secret. So a lot of incentives out there. Yeah, okay, he says thank you. That's great. All right, Prof, we would like at this point to thank you very much for making the time. We know you had to contend with technology issues, but you still made it, and you patiently waited for us to this point. We are most grateful. And
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, we want to assure you that you are going to be receiving a lot of mails, because people are yet to digest the content. We started the module only on Monday, and yesterday was Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, so I'm sure a lot of people decided to go on break. Okay. So by the time they digest more content, I'm sure more questions will come, and we'll be knocking at your door again to clarify certain concepts for us. But
thank you so very much. I'm most grateful for the opportunity. Yeah. And please kindly share with me the video after the session. Thank you so much.
Most definitely. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Dear colleagues, thank you. We moved all the way up to 39, almost 40, and now we are down to 20. Many people are leaving because of the internet and light fluctuations at our place here, and others also because the time has elapsed and there are other duty calls. We want to thank you most importantly for staying on and making this time. Again, we are going to upload this particular recording like the previous ones. So anyone who has left earlier or who may not have been able to join for any reason, rest assured you have full access to all the recorded content. We want to thank you once again and encourage you to continue and try and complete the materials for the week. Next week, same time, we are going to have another set of guest presenters that are going to help to explain and clarify concepts that we are dealing with in our materials to us. But don't forget that the Teams channels are still there. If you have any special insight you want to share, contribution to make, additions, suggestions, or even questions, you can still keep them coming into the channels. We'll forward all these to our presenters, and they are glad and ready to respond to every one of them. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon, all of you. Bye.